In a flooded limestone cave, far from the reach of sunlight, the water hangs motionless. There is no sense of up or down, no surface, no sky, no sound beyond the faint drip of limestone dissolving in the darkness. Then something moves. A pale, elongated body drifts through the darkness, jointed, segmented, almost symmetrical from head to tail. Dozens of limbs beat in quiet synchrony. It swims upside down, navigating a world without light. It has no eyes, it has never known the sun, and hidden within its head is a venom powerful enough to subdue struggling prey. This is a remipede. At first glance, it looks almost primitive, an echo of early arthropods, preserved in stone and shadow. For decades, that is how it was understood, but that interpretation is no longer certain, because this blind cave predator may be more closely related to insects than to many familiar crustaceans. And its venom, unique among crustaceans, forces us to rethink what this lineage represents. So, are remipedes ancient relics of crustacean evolution, or highly specialized predators shaped by isolation in the dark? To answer that, we must begin with a much simpler question. What is a remipede? Remipedes form a small and unusual class of crustaceans known as Remipedia. Fewer than 40 species have been described, all inhabiting flooded coastal cave systems known as Anchialine environments. They were first discovered in 1981, remarkably recent given how distinctive they are. At a glance, a remipede's body plan seems almost repetitive. The trunk is composed of numerous similar segments, each bearing a pair of swimming limbs. There is little of the regional specialization seen in crabs, lobsters, or even many smaller crustaceans. Instead, the body appears elongated and uniform, a chain of repeating units extending from head to tail. This repetition is known as homonymous segmentation, and it gives remipedes their distinctive silhouette, long, slender, and nearly symmetrical along their length. At the front lies the head, bearing antennae and mouthparts typical of crustaceans, though heavily modified for a predatory lifestyle. At the rear, the body tapers gently, without the enlarged abdomen or powerful tail fans seen on crustaceans like lobsters. Most species lack functional eyes entirely. Living in permanent darkness, they rely instead on chemical traces in the water and subtle disturbances in the currents to detect prey and navigate their environment. And unlike many bottom-dwelling crustaceans, remipedes swim freely through the water column, often upside down, propelling themselves with coordinated waves of their limbs. In essence, a remipede is a blind, cave-dwelling predatory crustacean built from a long series of near-identical segments. But while this description tells us what they look like, it does not yet tell us what they are in evolutionary terms. To answer that, we must first consider their place on the arthropod family tree. Within Pancrustacea, the clade that unites crustaceans and insects, remipedes occupy a surprising position. They are not simply basal or primitive crustaceans. If we consider the family tree, the earliest branch is actually Oligostraka, including tiny crustaceans like sea shrimp and fish lice, found in oceans and rivers around the world. Next comes Multicrustacea, probably the most familiar non-insect crustaceans. Crabs, lobsters, barnacles, woodlice, krill, and many others. Cephalocarida, or horseshoe shrimps, is a class of only 12 species. Like remipedes, they were among the few new crustacean lineages discovered in the 20th century, leading some researchers to speculate that they may be closely related. Molecular evidence, however, places them a little more distantly on the family tree. Brachiopoda, including fairy and clam shrimps, is another overlooked group. Most species live in fresh water, where they are important detritivores, cleaning up organic material and recycling nutrients. And now we reach Remipedia, the remipedes themselves. Their placement, this late in the tree, debunks the idea of them as primitive. They are highly derived, perfectly adapted for life in dark, flooded caves. So, who are their closest relatives? The answer is surprising. The hexapods, the insects and their close relatives. Remipedes are closer to butterflies than to crabs, shrimps, or lobsters. At this point, one more similarity might come to mind. Centipedes and millipedes. Both are segmented animals with many legs, and the names echo one another. But this resemblance is superficial. Myriapods, The group that includes centipedes and millipedes are terrestrial, while remipedes are aquatic. Centipedes use their forelegs to deliver venom. Remipedes have specialized mouthparts. And where myriapods breathe air through tracheae, remipedes extract oxygen from the surrounding water. To make this clearer, we can zoom out to the arthropod family tree. Arthropoda, the largest phylum of animals, has three main groups. First, Chelicerata, the spiders, scorpions, and horseshoe crabs. They are defined by their chelicerae, appendages before the mouth, which form pincers in scorpions or venomous fangs in spiders. Second, Myriapoda, the centipedes and millipedes. They are known for a single pair of antennae, many legs, and a segmented body without a defined thorax and abdomen. And third, Pancrustacea, where remipedes belong, beside the other crustaceans and the insects. Any similarity to myriapods is coincidental. Even the names are deceptive. Ped comes from Latin, meaning foot. It is where English words like pedal originate. Centipede means 100-footed. Millipede, 1,000-footed. Remipede, oar-footed. The names are literally describing their limbs. Centipedes have a lot, although, fun fact, no species of centipede has exactly 100 legs. And millipedes have more. Remipedes, on the other hand, reference the paddle-like motions it makes while swimming. The suffix only hints at segmentation. It does not reveal ancestry. In short, remipedes look ancient and move like relics, yet they belong to one of the most evolutionarily specialized branches of crustaceans. They remind us that appearances can deceive, especially in the dark, hidden corners of evolutionary history. Beneath limestone coastlines, hidden behind sinkholes and narrow fissures, lies a world few people ever see. Anchialine systems are not ordinary caves. They are landlocked bodies of water cut off from the sea at the surface, yet still connected to it underground through cracks and porous rock. It is here that remipedes make their home. The ocean moves through the caverns invisibly. Its influence can be seen in the changing of the tides. This effect can be minimal, only a few centimeters, or much more pronounced, depending on the cave system. Because of this hidden connection, their waters are layered. Fresh water often rests above denser seawater, forming a halocline, a sharp boundary where salinity changes abruptly. Oxygen concentrations can differ markedly with depth. Chemical conditions shift across surprisingly small vertical distances. In these submerged passages, there is no light at all. Remipedes occupy the deeper marine layer beneath the halocline. There, they swim slowly through still water that may be low in oxygen and extremely limited in nutrients. Much of what we infer about their ecology comes from physical cave measurements and gut content analysis. Direct behavioral observations are rare. Their bodies reflect this world. They are blind. In permanent darkness, eyes offer no advantage and have been lost entirely. Their pale coloration reflects the absence of sunlight and pigmentation. Pigment has no purpose in the pitch-black caves, but costs energy to produce, so its lack is common among subterranean animals. Metabolic rates are difficult to measure directly, but like many cave-dwelling animals, remipedes are thought to have relatively low energy demands. An inference based on habitat productivity in comparison with other cave-bound crustaceans. Precise physiological data, however, remains limited. That lack of information becomes even more obvious when we ask what should be a simple question. How do remipedes breathe? They live in water with extremely little dissolved oxygen, often less than 1 part per million. Compare that to the open ocean, which typically contains around 5 to 10 parts per million, and the challenge becomes clear. Remipedes do not have external gills. That much is obvious from even a quick glance. So again, how do they breathe? The leading idea is that they exchange gases directly across the surface of their bodies. In many ways, they are well suited to this strategy, with a long, slender body that gives them a relatively high surface area to volume ratio. Their flattened swimming limbs may also play a role. While primarily used for propulsion, these appendages increase the total surface area exposed to the surrounding water, which could help make gas exchange more efficient. Although the exact mechanism of respiration in remipedes is still debated, one thing is clear. Their blood contains hemocyanin, a copper-based protein that binds oxygen. Like hemoglobin in our own blood, Hemocyanin allows oxygen absorbed from the environment to be transported throughout the body. In stratified caves, where oxygen levels can vary sharply, and may at times be low, this aquatic mode of breathing is essential. The exact limits of their tolerance to low oxygen are still being studied, but their regular presence in deeper cave layers, where oxygen can be reduced and unstable, suggests that they are well adapted to these challenging conditions. Geographically, these caves are scattered, yet curiously patterned. Remipedes are known from the Caribbean, the Canary Islands, and Western Australia. While today these locations are widespread, go back a few 100 million years, and they do have something in common. They all bordered the Tethys Sea, a giant body of water that separated the northern and southern supercontinents during the time of the dinosaurs. Some researchers propose that this modern distribution of remipedes is not a coincidence. Perhaps it reflects fragmentation of a Tethyan marine ancestor as continents shifted. This idea is plausible and widely cited, but reconstructing the geography of ancient times is never straightforward. All known remipedes live in these Anchialine cave systems. All of them, that is, with one exception. Speleonectes ondinae was reported from a fully marine cave rather than a classic landlocked Anchialine system. In this case, the water lacked the distinct freshwater-saltwater layering typical of Anchialine caves, and was instead marine throughout. Even so, it is still a cave, lightless, submerged, and geologically isolated. They are obligate subterranean animals. Whether in stratified Anchialine systems or fully marine caves, they remain creatures of darkness. Given how rarely submarine cave systems have been explored, it remains possible that additional marine populations exist undiscovered. Remipedes were not described until the 1980s. Of the more than 30 species known today, 10 or more have been named within the last decade alone. This steady influx of new discoveries suggests not an explosion of evolution, but an expansion of access, a reminder that these animals have been here all along, hidden beyond the reach of conventional sampling. As exploration pushes deeper into submerged cave systems, our understanding of their distribution may yet shift. For now, the pattern appears clear. But in habitats this inaccessible, absence of evidence is never quite evidence of absence. For decades after their discovery, remipedes were thought to be unusual, but otherwise typical predators. But in 2013, researchers made a surprising discovery. Hidden within their mouthparts was a venom delivery system. Remipedes, it turned out, are venomous, the only known crustaceans to use venom to subdue prey. When a remipede encounters another animal, a small crustacean, a worm, or even a tiny fish, it can seize the prey with its limbs and inject venom through these specialized mouthparts. For many years, this behavior went unnoticed. Remipedes were thought to be scavengers, slowly feeding on detritus in the nutrient-poor darkness. And, in truth, they probably do consume organic debris and microorganisms when the opportunity arises. But, as we now know, they are venomous. Their venom is a complex mixture of proteins and enzymes. Some act as neurotoxins, interfering with the nerve signals that allow muscles to contract and quickly immobilizing struggling prey. Others appear to begin the process of digestion itself. In this respect, their strategy resembles that of spiders. Digestive enzymes in the venom start breaking down tissues before the food is fully consumed, allowing nutrients to be absorbed more efficiently. And that is the key point for remipedes: efficiency. In the resource-poor waters they inhabit, making the most out of every meal is vital. Exactly how this venom evolved remains uncertain. It likely evolved to make capturing prey more efficient, or it may reflect a deeper evolutionary history that has simply remained hidden in these rarely studied animals. Either way, the discovery of venom transformed how science viewed remipedes. They are not passive cave relics, but active predators, animals that combine a strange body plan with one of the most sophisticated hunting tools known in crustaceans. Life in Anchialine caves presents another challenge beyond finding food: finding a mate. Populations can be sparse, and individuals may encounter one another only rarely within the vast network of submerged passages. Under these conditions, remipedes appear to have evolved an unusual solution. Most species are thought to be simultaneous hermaphrodites, meaning each individual possesses both male and female reproductive organs at the same time. This strategy is uncommon among crustaceans, and particularly striking given their evolutionary proximity to insects, where males and females are usually separate. Because of this, hermaphroditism in Remipedes is generally believed to have evolved independently, likely as an adaptation to their subterranean lifestyle. Importantly, this does not necessarily mean they fertilize themselves. Evidence suggests that Remipedes most likely cross-fertilize, exchanging sperm when two individuals meet rather than reproducing alone. For animals living in such isolated environments, hermaphroditism can be advantageous. Any encounter between two individuals has the potential to result in reproduction, rather than depending on the chance meeting of opposite sexes. Exactly how mating occurs in Remipedes remains poorly documented. Observing behavior inside submerged cave systems is extremely difficult, and much of what scientists know about their reproduction comes from anatomical study rather than direct observation. Even the earliest stages of Remipede life remain mysterious. Their larvae appear to be less lithotrophic, meaning they do not feed after hatching, and instead rely on nutrients stored in the egg. In fact, the earliest larvae lack a fully formed mouth or digestive system altogether. This raises an interesting question. How do they obtain enough energy to swim, molt, and continue developing? Some researchers have suggested that symbiotic bacteria may contribute additional nutrients, though this idea remains speculative. Like so much about Remipedes, their earliest life stages are still poorly understood. Even in reproduction, these animals reflect the same pattern seen throughout their biology. Unusual solutions shaped by life in one of the most isolated habitats on Earth. For decades after their discovery, Remipedes were often described as living fossils. Their bodies seem simple, their segments repeated in near identical fashion. Compared with the specialized limbs of crabs or the compact form of shrimp, they looked almost primitive, as though they had preserved an early stage of crustacean evolution. But that interpretation has gradually shifted. Genetic studies now suggest that Remipedes sit relatively deep within Pancrustacea, close to the lineage that produced insects. That position changes how scientists interpret their unusual anatomy. Rather than representing a primitive condition, many of their traits may instead be specializations for life in darkness. As an entire class of subterranean animals, this should not be surprising. The loss of eyes is almost certainly one such adaptation. Over time, unused structures tend to disappear. The same pattern is seen in many cave-dwelling animals, from cave fish to blind salamanders. Their lack of pigmentation tells a similar story. Producing color requires energy, and in a world of permanent darkness, color serves no purpose. Natural selection, therefore, tends to favor individuals that do not waste resources. And in a world of eternal darkness, vision and color tend to be among the first features to disappear. Even their elongated bodies may reflect the demands of their environment. In still cave waters, where prey is scarce and space can be confined and complex, a long, flexible body with many swimming limbs may allow slow, efficient movement through narrow passages and layered water columns. In this sense, Remipedes are not relics frozen in time. They are highly specialized cave predators, shaped by millions of years of evolution in one of the most unusual habitats on Earth. At the same time, their position on the arthropod family tree still makes them scientifically valuable. Because they sit close to the branch that leads to insects, their anatomy may provide clues about what early pancrustaceans were like before insects colonized the land. Features such as their limb structure, nervous system organization, and development are therefore studied with particular interest. Even their venom raises evolutionary questions. Venom systems have evolved many times across the animal kingdom, in spiders, snakes, cone snails, and countless others. But within crustaceans, they are almost entirely unknown. Why Remipedes alone evolved this strategy remains an open question. Remipedes may be the only venomous crustaceans, but they are not the only venomous members of Pancrustacea. Many insects possess venom, particularly the order Hymenoptera, ants, bees, and wasps. Venom also appears in some caterpillars and beetles. These insect venoms almost certainly evolved independently from those of Remipedes. Yet it is striking that the only pancrustaceans known to use venom belong to two branches that are close on the evolutionary tree. For Remipedes, it is possible that the extreme scarcity of food in Anchialine caves favored any adaptation that improved hunting efficiency. If so, venom may represent a specialized solution to the unique ecological pressures of subterranean life. Whatever the explanation, Remipedes demonstrate an important lesson in evolutionary biology. Animals that appear simple are not necessarily primitive, and some of the most informative species about the history of life are not the large or charismatic ones, but the obscure hidden organisms in places humans rarely explore. Remipedes are easy animals to overlook. They are small, pale, and hidden in places few humans ever reach. Flooded caves accessible only to trained divers, often through narrow passages beneath coastal limestone. For most of human history, they existed entirely outside of our awareness. Even today, they remain among the least studied crustaceans on Earth. Yet animals like these can hold surprising scientific importance. Anchialine cave systems are among the most isolated habitats on the planet. Each cave network can function almost like its own island, separated from others by kilometers of rock and ocean. Over long stretches of time, that isolation allows unusual lineages to persist and evolve in ways that rarely occur in more connected environments. For biologists, this makes such caves natural laboratories of evolution. Species found in these systems often exist nowhere else on Earth. Some represent branches of the tree of life that have survived in quiet obscurity while their relatives diversified elsewhere. Others reveal evolutionary solutions to extreme environments: low oxygen, limited food, and permanent darkness. Their discovery in 1981 was not the unveiling of a newly evolved animal, but the recognition of a lineage that had simply gone unnoticed, and the fact that more than a third of known species have been described only in recent years suggests that our picture of their diversity is still incomplete. Each new expedition into submerged cave systems has the potential to reveal species never seen before. In a sense, Remipedes remind us that some of the most important discoveries in biology do not come from distant planets or deep in time in the fossil record, but from environments on our planet that remain largely unexplored. Far beneath coastal rock, in silent chambers of dark water, entire ecosystems continue to exist beyond the edges of human knowledge. And drifting slowly through those unseen worlds are animals like the Remipedes, blind swimmers whose strange body and venomous bite hint at evolutionary stories we are only just beginning to understand. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the Remipedes. If you're interested in the research behind this episode, you can find a document with image credits and sources in the description below. These videos take a great deal of time and research to produce. They will always remain free to watch. But if you would like to support the channel and gain access to new videos a little earlier, you can find a link to my Patreon below as well. If this video sparked your curiosity, don't let it stop here. Share it, talk about it, and keep learning. There's still so much to discover about the world's rare and remarkable species. And the more we understand, the better our chances of protecting them. Thanks for watching.